Okay, let's just jump right into it. For the last 40 years, the United States and China, their grand strategies, have, well, fundamentally misunderstood each other. Welcome to this explainer on exactly how we got here and, honestly, why it matters so much to everything going on today.
It's a massive historical puzzle, right? How did two quasi-allies cooperating back in the Cold War become the defining geopolitical rivals of the 21st century? Today, we're unpacking this huge strategic mismatch that literally defined a generation. And we're going to do it by looking strictly at what the historical documents tell us about the real differing intentions of Washington and Beijing.
Now, to really understand this pivot, we have to travel back to 1989. China's paramount leader at the time, Deng Xiaoping, made this absolutely remarkable observation. It seems that one Cold War has come to an end, but that two others have already begun. Just think about that for a second. Right as the Berlin Wall is falling and the West is, celebrating the end of history, Beijing's entire worldview is shifting dramatically. They're preparing for a brand new, hidden struggle.
And guys, this shift was massive. I mean, back in the 1980s, the US and China were actually quasi-allies. The US built intelligence bases in Western China just to monitor Soviet missile tests. American intelligence was working shoulder to shoulder with the Chinese military, even selling them advanced weapons like Black Hawk helicopters. No way we'd see that today, right? Fast forward to now, and they're strategic rivals, totally locked in intense military tension and a really fierce ideological clash.
All right, let's look at part one, America's strategy of engagement. You see, American engagement wasn't just some vague, feel-good idea. It was a highly structured approach, relying on four core steps. First up, modernize China economically. Second, liberalize China politically. The idea was to move it away from hard authoritarianism. Third, socialize China internationally by bringing it into the fold of global institutions. And fourth, exchange as a process, which basically meant building massive society-to-society ties. The American goal was quite literally to integrate China into the global family of nations.
So, what was the core assumption behind all of this? It was perfectly captured by President George W. Bush back in 2005. He said, as the people of China grow in prosperity, their demands for political freedom will grow as well. And this wasn't just his personal hot take. This was a deep, bipartisan conviction that stretched across multiple administrations, heavily rooted in modernization theory. The U.S. sincerely believed, they really thought, that economic wealth and marketization would just inevitably lead to a liberalized, maybe even democratic China.
Over time, this strategy blossomed into this massive, broad domestic coalition. It wasn't just a top-down government policy being pushed out of the White House. It became a hugely decentralized engagement process. You had universities taking in hundreds of thousands of Chinese students. Major corporations were building out these vast supply chains, and NGOs were over there trying to foster legal reform. Literally, everyone in America had a stake in this engagement process, and they all firmly believed they were genuinely helping China modernize.
But here's the catch. While America was busy engaging, Beijing was experiencing an entirely different reality. Let's move into part two, the traumatic trifecta.
Over just 3 short years, 3 historic shocks permanently altered China's grand strategy. First, in 1989, the Tiananmen Square protests highlighted what Beijing saw as a direct ideological threat to the Communist Party from Western liberalism. Then you have the 1990 to 1991 Gulf War, which demonstrated a truly terrifying American military threat. The U.S. totally decimated an Iraqi army that was using equipment very similar to China's. Finally, the 1991 Soviet collapse removed their shared adversary. That left the U.S. as an unchecked geopolitical threat. So almost overnight, Washington replaced Moscow as Beijing's primary security concern.
And this leads us to a really profound, dramatic irony. The exact same policies America thought were helping China modernize, China viewed those as a subversive tactic. To Beijing, U.S. engagement was actually a hostile strategy of peaceful evolution. Essentially, they saw it as a plot to overthrow the Chinese socialist system and westernize the country without ever firing a single shot. They looked at American civil society building and trade not as friendly outreach, but as a literal existential threat to their system of governance.
Facing what they totally perceived as an existential threat, China obviously had to react. Which brings us to part 3, China's shift, hide capabilities.
To survive this new reality, Deng Xiaoping formulated a highly specific 24-character doctrine, which is often shortened to Tao Guang Yang Hui. It literally translates to hide one's capabilities and bide one's time.
See, because China's relative power was significantly lower than America's back in the 1990s, they adopted this temporary strategy of absolute non-assertiveness. They basically decided to just keep their heads down, avoid claiming any sort of international leadership, and quietly build up their strength. And top Chinese leaders consistently utilized this strategy for decades. In 2006, President Hu Jintao explicitly stated, "We must insist on not speaking too much and not doing too much to minimize the strategic pressure of external forces on China." They were acutely aware that if they seemed threatening too soon, the US and its allies might just form a balancing coalition, like an Asian NATO, to contain them. They had to patiently buy time for their own domestic development, all without triggering any alarms in Washington. But let's be clear, they definitely weren't just sitting still and hiding. Let's look at part 4, blunting American power. As you'll see, there was a massive tactical mismatch across 3 key domains. While the US was trying to project global military power, China focused purely on sea denial and asymmetric weapons. While the US wanted to expand liberal institutions, China joined them specifically to stall regional bodies. And while the US used the threat of economic sanctions, China worked relentlessly to secure permanent trade access. Basically, China systematically, and very non-assertively, countered American strengths. Let's break down the military side of this. Instead of trying to match the US Navy carrier for carrier, which, let's face it, would have sparked immediate alarm, China abandoned sea control for sea denial. They went ahead and built the world's largest submarine fleet. They heavily developed what they called Assassin's Mace, anti-ship ballistic missiles, and purposely delayed investments in obvious power projection tools like aircraft carriers. The official Chinese military principle was brilliantly pragmatic here. Just develop whatever the enemy is afraid of. And the blunting continued politically and economically, too. Beijing joined regional groups like APEC and the ASEAN Regional Forum. But why? Well, not to lead them, but to stall institutional progress from within and prevent American encirclement. Economically, they fought tooth and nail for permanent normal trade relations and pushed hard for World Trade Organization membership. This was a highly calculated move to limit U.S. economic coercion, permanently tying Washington's hands so the U.S. couldn't just leverage trade for human rights concessions. Which brings us to the grand disconnect of it all. Part 5, the collision of strategies. We are essentially looking at 2 entirely irreconcilable goals. On one side, you have America's determined push to socialize China into the post-WW2 liberal global order, fully expecting that economic growth would just naturally spark democratic reform. On the other side, you have a quiet, intensely focused effort by China to blunt Western leverage, secure conditions for Chinese autonomy, and fiercely defend its one-party system. So the tragic flaw of the era was really this. An enormous, multi-decade coalition of American interests pushed for engagement with all their might, but they completely missed the underlying strategic shift happening over in Beijing. Despite the massive increase in trade, all those student exchanges, and diplomacy, the core American political objectives ultimately failed to materialize. And why? Because China was playing a vastly different strategic aim the entire time. Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. Was the U.S. strategy of engagement just a misguided failure, or was this clash of grand strategies entirely inevitable? I mean, given the profound ideological differences and those traumatic shocks of the early 90s we talked about, could these 2 nations have ever truly integrated? It's a question that literally defines our modern history, and understanding it is absolutely vital to making sense of today's headlines. Keep exploring these ideas, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.